afternoon, everyone. I'm a little late. Technical difficulties, plus work, plus traffic. Let's see if I can get, having trouble with my resolution. Let's see if that looks any better. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. So let me step in the way of the camera for a minute and say, okay, so I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to get situated. So as you come in, if you'd like to, just say hi in the chat so I know that some people are arriving. I'm trying to arrange the other camera for a close-up. So yeah, don't look at my threads because they look all squatty there. And I'm not quite sure what's up with that. Oh, look, my witch is hanging. So while people are coming in, I'm going to give it about 5 minutes. And for the moment, well, shoot. It's a good thing you can't see that camera. Okay. See if I'm going to have anybody joining in. And like I said, I'll wait a few more minutes and then I'll go ahead. I just want to make sure somebody can see. And for anyone that's watching when this, and I say this every time, after it gets, after YouTube publishes it, I have to wait till the next day, and then, or later in the night, and cut this first part out, so that if you should play it later, play it back later, then you don't have to fast forward through all that. So okay, so I got 1 minute to go. And let me just check on the second camera while I'm waiting. And we're good there. Okay. Hi, Lynn. Oh, let me know. Give me a, I don't know, can you do a thumbs up and let me know? I believe the sound is okay. Not positive, but I believe it's okay. So here's the original one I did. So let me just make, I'm sure from waiting for a thumbs up. My phone doesn't have an unplug. I'll just do that. Okay, so just to pause for a second. Okay, so here was the first one that I did, and I showed you this last week, and we did our quilting last week. So if you're joining for the first time and you haven't done the first part of this placemat, it was last Saturday. What's the date today? So that was the 3rd, October 3rd, 2020, and it should say Halloween Placemat. So we put our batting on, got our top fabric for our placemat, and then we did our quilting, and you can probably see it on this one a little better. So there's our quilting. We just marked it with wavy stitches, and then you needed to, let me get these out of the way, then you needed to cut the placemat down to 12 by 16. I believe that's what it was. So that one was done. And I was explaining on this one that I hadn't reversed the PDF files that I sent you, so that I put a link to that's on Facebook. And I'll put a link to the applique shapes on last week's live video, and on this week, so you can download that. It's free. So they're already reversed. So when you're doing, hi Christine, when you're doing applique and you're using your fusible web on the back, because you're drawing on the fusible web and then you're putting it onto the back of your fabric, in order for it to come out the way that it looks in the picture, you have to reverse it. If you were cutting this out on a cutting machine, then you wouldn't reverse it. So I have one going one way, and this is the correct one. So if you wanted it this way, you would just take the shapes that are on the PDF and then trace from the back of them. So let me set that one up out of the way. So your homework was to make sure that you traced everything out. I got to get up here further. that you traced everything out and you put it on, you put your, I use steamosine, so put your steamosine on the back, cut it all out so you have your 3 pieces. They still have paper on the back. So what I want to warn you especially about, let me make sure my iron's on, okay. What I want to warn you especially about, because I've done this, we've all done this, don't lay everything down and get it in order how you want it with the paper on it, because what's going to happen is you're going to forget and you're going to press that, and when you do, the glue is gone. You have to start over. So I'm going to, and this has a little stickiness to it, see? So I'm just going to set my moon right there for the minute. I can move it, I haven't stitched it yet. I'm going to peel off my witch and set her up there. Now, let's see if we can look at the witch. Let me see which is the best way to look at the witch. This way, I guess. Do you see how you have these 2 openings here? So you really don't want to have this down so that, can you see how I have a little bit of the moon showing on the, in between the arms? Well, then I'd have to stitch the moon. So I want to make sure that I put this where the least amount of hard stitching to do. So if I move it up so that the moon is behind both of those openings where the arms are, then I don't have to worry about the moon. So for example, if I did, let me do it like a big part. So if I did it here, it's a little hard to see. If I did it so the moon was like under the chin, and you can move yours to see what I'm talking about. But if I move the witch so the moon, part of the moon was under the chin, I need to stitch that edge of that moon, and it's too close to the chin. So kind of keep those things in mind when you're setting things down. The other thing that we have to think about is, remember, we're going to have an inch of border on this. So you got to keep in mind that you have an inch here, that you don't want to put the moon up. You don't want to put the moon up high like this, and then your border comes in and cuts off part of your moon. So if you need to make a mark for an inch down, you can go ahead, take your ruler and make a mark for an inch down. I'm just going to kind of eyeball mine. So I'm on my mat, so if I look at my mat, say if I look at the, well, let's go to this edge. If I look at this edge here, I've got an inch here, so I can kind of eyeball up and make sure that my moon is a little below that. I don't want to cut off the top of the moon. The same thing applies over here. Okay? I've got an inch that's coming over here, so I wouldn't want this way over this way. So if you kind of think of it centering to the more towards the middle, so remember I'm going to be about an inch down, I want to be at least like an inch and a half down, and put my moon, and I'm going to put my witch. So now I've got my arms over the moon. Here's the other thing I don't really want to have, and let's see if I can exaggerate it a little bit so you can see. I don't want to have, you see how I got that little bit of moon sticking there? Well, I might like to have it, but I have to keep in mind I've got to stitch that moon down, because it doesn't necessarily need it to hold it in place. It's just going to look funny not stitched, and you're not leaving yourself enough to get one stitch out of it. So if you were going to go up further, if you went up further like that is, you see how I've got that much more room there to stitch. So I try to keep those things in mind when I'm doing something like this. And if you're all about the look and you want it to look a certain way, you just have to realize that, you know, there's give and take with everything. So I'm going to have it so that my moon isn't showing where the cape is. So it's coming to here and it's stopping right over here. Okay, so you can set yours how you like it. So I've set mine down. And now we're going to talk about the tree. So the first thing you do is take the paper off your face, off your face pieces, and go ahead and put them on the tree. So you can go ahead and do that now. I put mine down because I didn't want to lose it. Even though I think I want my moon right here, I'm not going to iron it down until I get my tree situated. No matter how much I have on here for applique, I'm going to set everything down because it's sticky and it'll stay. See, it'll stay until I have everything where I want it to be, because inevitably you'll get to that last piece, big piece, whatever it is, and and where you thought you were going to put it doesn't work or it doesn't fit or whatever the case may be, and it throws off everything else, and you've already ironed it down and it's permanently down. So don't iron anything, press anything down until you're all done placing everything. So, and don't press the face on, just stick it on, because remember, there's still paper behind here. So if I press this face on with my iron, I'm going to ruin the glue behind the tree. So hopefully that all makes sense to you. Okay, so now, and I'm sorry I keep twirling it around, but I'm trying to, my choices of resolution on my camera, there was only one, and that's why it's kind of squatty, because I had to stretch it out, and I don't know what's up with that. The software did an update, and you know how that is. So my tree, now you have to stop and think, okay, how do I want this? Do I want this under my border? Do I want it on top of my border? And I don't mean on top like on top of it. In this case, it's either under the border or in line with the border. So you got to think about that. We got to remember this side over here. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure I move my tree to the right at least 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to move it, and I know it still has its paper on, because in this case we don't want to take the paper off yet, because what will happen is, because these guys are all dangly and you start taking the paper off, one of the steam machine pieces, the fusible pieces, will stick to another piece, and then you can't get them undone. So just be patient. So I'm going to move over. I moved over about 2 inches, and I think I want to move this now a little more to the right. Let me see if I can show you this way. So I want to really, I'm kind of having about the same distance here. This side's got just a little more, but I don't want this to be way over here unless I really want it all over on one side. I could very well want this over here and this here, and this is all, you know, there's nothing there. You can put your silverware there or whatever the case, because this is a placemat. So it's all little things, and it's really all about personal taste, and you're going to find from one project to the next, you might think of one differently than the next one. So don't box yourself in and say, well, I got to do it all at the same time. You may want your tree on the right and the moon over on the left, and so on and so forth. So I've moved my tree over so that it's about, let me see, I'm going to go about 2 inches. Now, it's going to seem like a long way, but remember, I've got 1 inch of border there. So, and I know I keep twirling this around. Let me put this, so if I had my border on, it's about 1 inch. Okay, do you see how much closer my tree looks now to the edge than it did like this? Okay, so if you need to lay your fabric down to get an idea of how it looks, just do that. It's okay. Just take a piece of fabric, and I'm about an inch in. So I've got plenty of room there. Okay, see how wide it looks now, and it looks like you got way too much space. Okay, so the same thing is at the bottom. So if I take, and I'm just using this, so if I take and put this up an inch, now, do I want my tree, I can have it so that that end is under the border, so that when I bring the border up, the end of the tree will be underneath it. And remember, I'm going to be stitching along, top stitching along this border. So do I want my top stitching on my tree? How do I want that to look? I'm going to bring my tree up, because a tree can be sitting anywhere. A tree doesn't have to be like at the bottom of anything. I could be anywhere, except I don't want to be up in my sky. So I'm going to figure, maybe, I don't know, about a ½ inch above where my border might be. Okay? So once you have everything where you think you want it to be, then we're going to start to take the paper off. And I'm going to try to do this. Let's see if I can, I'll try to do it this way. I'm sorry, I turn it because I want you to see it, and then if I turn it too much, then I can't, and then my hands will be in the way. So here we are, we're ready for to take the paper off of our tree. We pretty much know where we want it to be, double checking, everything is fine. I think I'm going to move my witch up a little bit higher than I had it, so they aren't too close together. So what I want to do is I'm going to start at the bottom of the tree. Hi, Sandy. And I'm going to take my paper off, and I'm going to try to do this slow so that you can see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold my paper underneath, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly peel that paper off that way. So I'm just going to fold it back, and I can put a fold in it because I want to make sure I get back to where I wanted my tree to be, because I just moved it. Okay, so I'm sticking this part down. I'm going to hopefully keep my hand here. And now with my hand here, I can lift this tree up, and I can slowly take my paper off. And I'm going to do this limb. So I'm going to pull the paper off the first limb. My only goal is to make sure I don't stick one limb onto another limb. So I'm going to come up on this side, and see, I'm going to take the paper off of the right side. Don't worry about your limbs being exactly how you want them to be. We just want to get them with the paper off without sticking to each other. So I'm going to pull my paper up a little more. And now I can grab this limb on the left. Hopefully you can see. I know it's falling back on itself. And now I'm near the end, I can go ahead and take the rest of them off. And I want to lift them up carefully and just move them apart from each other, so that no fusible is sticking to any other fusible. And I can get rid of that. Now I can look at it and I can adjust it. So if I need to adjust it, like I might be a little off kilter, and I'm just going to slowly go up. Oh, I got a thread in there. And work on my limbs. Let me turn now this way so you can see it a little better. Let me go a little higher with the camera and see if that helps a little bit. Does that help a little bit? He looks kind of mean, doesn't he? Oh. You see, when I flipped that, I had one of the limbs go under the other. I just want to be careful. And I can, you notice I'm holding on here, I don't know where I keep getting all these threads from. Got this one thread that keeps, there we go. Okay? So if I want to make sure, now I can have limbs over limbs or that if I want to. I just don't want to, I don't want it if I don't want that. And you just want to get it so no matter how you maneuver it, you want to make sure there's no folds, no ripples. Okay, so there we go. So now we need to press. So you want to make sure that you have your iron on. And I'm hoping my little iron reaches over here. So I got my my wool pressing mat here. And you would be using your big iron, and you would be using your applique pressing sheet. I just can't reach everything without making, I want you to be able to see. Remember we talked about if you have those steam holes, where those steam holes are, it's not going to release the glue on here, and you'll see it on your when you're working with your pieces. So you want the part of the iron that's nice and smooth. And we're just going to put it down and count to about 15. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm going to lift up. I'm going to move down. 1, 2, 3. I won't count out loud. Then we're going to lift up. I want to make sure that I have my little broom in the dress apart from each other. Again, you're going to count to about 15. Okay, now I pressed this way. Now I'm going to turn in a different direction. And I'm going to make sure I come out to these ends to make sure that I caught them under the flat surface of the iron. Then I'm going to come across again. Okay, and then I'm just, if I've made any iron marks, I'm just going to smooth it out. Then I'm going to get to the tree. So now the tree is under my wool pressing mat. And I want to be really careful. So I'm going to hold it down for about the count of 5. I just want to make sure I've got everybody where they should be. So if I have to move anything, I haven't really glued it down yet. And what you want to make sure of is make sure that you haven't caused a crease in your background fabric or anything like that. So I'm going to go in first and I'm going to get that face down. So I'm going to count to 15. And when you have a heavier iron, it helps too. And then I'm going to come back and do my 15 all over. And you'll hopefully have less times to press if you have a bigger iron. But make sure you get all those edges. Because when you're stitching, your foot could turn them up. Or when you're stitching close to an edge, it can turn the edge up. And you can always go back to your iron and press some more. And I'm going a little faster only because, you poor things have been waiting all this time. And I don't want to forget the middle. So even though I did the face, I didn't do up in this area. And I want to make sure I get that end again. And you notice I turned my iron in a different direction. And you're going to hold it down, like I said, a little longer. Hopefully you have a bigger iron so you don't have to go around as many times as I am. And then again, I just want to iron, regular iron, so that I haven't left any iron marks. That always bothers me when I'm stitching if I see those. Okay? Okay? So while that's cooling off, I'm going to make sure, so let me switch over to the, let me switch over to the other camera. So the first thing I want to look at is, and I don't think I can get any closer than that. There we go. So I have to determine what stitch I'm going to do, and for me, it depends which machine I'm on, which stitches it has. But the first thing I'm going to do is put my pivot on if I have pivot. And pivot is, if you take your foot off the pedal, and you, oh, I'm a little too close there. If you take the foot off the pedal, when you're sewing, if you have pivot, the needle will go into the fabric and your foot will come up so that you can move or turn your fabric, and then just hit your pedal again with your foot and go on. If you don't, you're going to be using your lever to press the foot up and down. So in this case, I'm going to use a blanket stitch. So I'm going to go, because I don't remember on this machine where it is. So I'm just going to look here. These are all my utility stitches, blind hem and all that goodness. If you don't have other stitches, then use a zigzag. Okay, so I don't have, I'm back to my beginning, so I have to go into my, here we go. And I have a book. If I stick my finger up by that screen, the camera wants to adjust. So I'm going to take that one right there, and I probably don't want that wide of a stitch. So I'm going to come up and change my width to, I'm going to try 2.5 and see. Okay, my length, I'm okay with my length. Okay, now if I look here, my regular stitch, my regular stitch is, let me see if I can move my focus there. My regular straight part of my stitch is on the right, and my bite, the part that's going right to left, is going left. So I know that when I stitch my applique, I'm stitching on the outside right side, and you'll see that in a minute. So let's give that a try, and I'm going to zoom back a minute, so if you need to, close your eyes. And I'm going to come over here, and I have to come down a little so you can see. We don't need to see my screen anymore, so I'm going to try to come in here as close as I can. Let's see if I can get a little closer. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm trying to be as close as I can. Let's see. We'll see how that works out. So the first thing I need to do is I need to change to my end foot, and that's on the baby lot. And the end foot, see how it has that tunnel right there? So when I do decorative stitches or top stitching, it needs a place to be able to get through, and that's why, see how the little tunnel is? So if I show you my J foot, you see how that's totally flat? See the difference, the tunnel? So this one, as I'm stitching along, my stitches could start to back up, and then the fabric isn't feeding through good. So if you have that issue, you want a foot that has a tunnel. And in this case, it is the end foot. Okay? So I'm going to put my other foot away like a good doobie. Okay. Oh, let me get that foot on. And I know my hand's going to get in there, so I may have to I may have to back up the zoom because every time I put my hand there, it's gonna go off. Let's see if I don't have a manual. Let's see. Oh, did you lose me for a minute? Okay. I was trying to go to the manual setting and the whole thing just shut off. Let's see if I have that. Yeah, that isn't going to work either. Okay. Now I feel like I'm further away. That's a little better. Okay. So the next thing I have to talk about is my bobbin thread. So my bobbin thread, I'm going with bobbin thread that's the color of my background, or close to the color of my background. Okay? So I'm going to put my bobbin thread in. And normally, right now, I'd be putting in black if I was, I'm sorry, for the top, I would normally I would use the black for the, my words are getting ahead of me. For the top thread, I would usually, for the witch, I would have black, and I'll do the witch in gray so you can see it, and then I'll do the tree in black so you can see the difference. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is the moon. And the reason I want to do the moon first is it's behind the witch. And I want to start at one side and go all the way around and end here without stopping. So remember, my stitch is coming down this way and biting in to the left. So I want to make sure that I have my fabric in so that I'm stitching the straight part of my buttonhole stitch, or a blanket stitch, is going to be at the edge of the moon but onto this fabric, and then the bite, the left piece, the left stitch that comes on will be onto the moon. And I'm going to use this bright color so you can see it a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this back. I'm going to go back like that for a minute because I think I can move the machine a little closer. It's a little far away for me to see it. To reach it. Oh, don't do what I just did. Don't pull your thread back. I thought I had already cut it. Always pull your thread forward. Well, you couldn't see it. You couldn't see that I did that, could you? And I'm using a machine embroidery thread. It's a little thicker and it's really shiny and pretty. You can use sewing thread. You can use like a 30 weight thread. Your 30 weight thread you might change to a bigger needle. So when I'm doing top stitching, I'm using a top stitch needle. I generally use an 80-12 top stitch needle. If I have a heavier thread, I might have to go to a 90-14. Okay, so let me situate this camera. So I'm trying to think of what would work best for you to see. And it may be I just can't get in close enough to, let's see. Hold on one second. I'm going to put the camera right in front of me. Sorry about that. So, Okay. So let's see if you can see that okay. So I want to start over where the moon and the witch start, right there. I want to, let's see if I can come in as, I'm going to come in as, oops, sorry, as close as I can. So I want to make sure I'm going to start stitching right where the moon and the witch meet. I'm going to roll this other fabric up so I don't have any problem under my machine. And what I want to do is, first of all, I want to take off my glasses. I can't see. I want to, with my wheel of my machine, on the right hand side where your wheel, where you put your needle up and down, I'm going to put my needle in right where I want to start. I didn't sink it all the way in, I just have it in enough. I want to make sure my foot is down. If you have a button, let me back up. There's going to be kind of a backwards and forwards because I'm not sure how much everyone knows. So I have this button right here, and that's going to lock in place. So I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, because I need to lock my stitch every time I start and stop because there's nothing to keep it from unraveling. Okay, now let me go back in again. And I'm going to try to do this with as little hands as possible, just to keep my hands out of your way. Oh, sorry. That was my knee there. Okay, so I'm going to have my hands so that, you see how my fabric is bubbling up there? So I just want to make sure that I have my fabric nice and flat. And I'm going to just take a few, I'm going to make sure my speed is on like medium. So if you have speed control, you want to use that. And I'm going to stitch along. And I'm hoping that you can see, yeah, that bumps there. So let me stitch a little bit, and then I'll try to put the camera up higher, you know, hold it up higher. And see, every time I stop, because I have pivot, now I can turn. And what I'm trying to do, and I'm just going to lean the camera forward. Hold on. What I'm trying to do is make sure that I stitch, you get something to point with. I'm going to stitch right, bumping up again, I'm on the background, but I'm almost bumping up against this moon, is the straight stitch, and then the bite, or the left stitch, is going to go on to the moon. Now this is a blanket stitch, so you have to pay attention, there's different blanket stitches. This one goes, I believe, forward, bite, and back out. Forward, back, forward, bite, and go back out. So you have to pay attention to that. And when you're turning your fabric, always make sure you're out on the part of the straight part of the stitch, not on the bite of the moon, because if I bite in here and then I move the fabric, I might be coming out way over here. I'll have this big V going. Okay? So you can go ahead and give that a try. And I'm going to put this back, hopefully, without making you too nauseous. Oop, I lost a leg of my, there we go. Okay, and that may be just too close with the camera, but I'll give it a whirl and see. And I'll just go a little ways, and then I'll stop and I'll take it off so you can see. And hopefully, because I can't get that close, I can see where I can be close to where you should be stitching. Okay, so I'm going to lock that just so that, because I'm going to cut it so you can see it. Okay, so see how we are? So the stitch is to the is right along the edge. See how it's right at the edge of the moon? Now, this is a pretty tight stitch, so I reduced it in width, but I probably should have made it longer. I don't want to stop now, and normally what I would do is I would, test a few out to see which one I like. And see how I'm locked here, so I'll be able to cut that right down to the quick, so to speak. So we're going to go all the way around, okay? So I'm going to, let me see if I can, I don't want to have you getting dizzy from this camera. So let me see if I can just put it over to the side, back up a little. Okay, so at least you'll be able to see me going around, I'm going to be going around the moon. Okay? So again, I'm going to get where I think I need to be, bring my needle down, put my foot down. I'm going to go ahead and lock it. 1, 2, 3. And I apologize if I get my nose in your way to stitch. I'll try to keep my hands over here if that helps you. I can't reach my pedal. Hold on. Here we go. And don't worry about how fast you're going. And again, I want to make sure I'm keeping my fabric smooth. But you notice my hands aren't up around the needles. They're out here. Excuse me. Now, I'm on the bite. I don't want to stop here. I'm going to just hit my pedal to get back out over at the edge of the moon. I think I might have gone too far out. I don't know where to put my hands. Now you may have to stop more often on the curve. You have to remember I've been doing this a while, so if you go at a moderate speed, you can almost turn it as you're going. But be sure to stop every now and again just to bring the foot up a little bit, but make sure your needle's in the fabric, just so everything can relax. I have in the center of my foot, it's split like two pieces, like two sections like this. So I can have my moon, edge of my moon is going right between those two pieces because I know that my needle is just a tad to the right of that. And if you go off and it's not perfect, it's okay. It's not your prom dress. And as soon as I get this stitched, I will stop to see if there's any questions. So if anybody has any questions. And when I get to that end, I want to make sure I lock again. Okay, so let me just get my little scissors. Oh, pardon my reach. So I'm just gonna, that's where I started, so I'm gonna trim that off. And I want to show you something. Okay, so here, can you see right there? There. So remember, I stopped so I could show you, and then I started again. So I'm missing a spot. Do you think I'm going to go in there with my sewing machine and get that spot? No, if that's bothering me, and it would be, I'm just going to take a sewing needle, hand sewing needle, because I only need, see, I only need one more, here we go. I only need one more bite in. So I would just use my hand sewing needle, same thread, and just fix that. So there we are. Okay? Everybody doing okay? And just make sure it smooths out. So this let me just double check for any comments. I think everybody's good. Oh, hi, Ronnie, you joined in. I didn't see that. Okay, so now I'm going to look at this witch. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure I want to do that blanket stitch around there. That seems like an awful lot of work to me. An awful lot of places for things to go bad. And I also have this little broom handle and these little areas here. So I might, let me give that some thought. I could use a zigzag, but I think today, and I actually could do 2 stitches, so why don't we do that? So where the broom is, I can use straight stitching, and where the witch is, let's try to do a little zigzag, okay? So let's see if we can switch over to this screen. Can you see that okay? Of course you can't answer me. But when I say can you see that okay, that means I have to look over at the monitor and see. Okay, so I just tried to use my mouse to do this. So pardon me for that. So I'm just going to use a zigzag so I can go back to my, my utility stitches, because I just need a zigzag. And here's my how did I do that? And there's my zigzag. And it tells me at the top it's 3.5 inches wide, 1.4 length. And you know, I'm like you, I think, oh yeah, okay, whatever that means. So I have a piece of when I trimmed down my placemat, because I have to test the stitches as it is with the batting. It isn't going to do me any good to test it on just this piece of fabric because of the thickness of the batting. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll leave that gold color in, and I'm just going to test that, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so I'm looking at this. Oh, sorry. And I'm thinking, that's okay. Whoops, sorry. But I don't know. It's a little close together. So let me change my length. So I'm gonna go up to 2. I'm gonna try it again. And you can be doing this at the same time. So when I go up to 2, well, that's okay, except my witch is pretty small. So that big stitch, oh, there we go, might be too much. I might have to go back to this stitch. But let me try something in between. I may have to go back to this one. Let me see. So if I wanted to go back, I could just hit my default, but let me go back down. Oh, wrong way. So the default, because it's black, is 1.4. So let's try 1.8, and I'm going to make it a little narrower while I'm there. I'm at 3.5, I'm going to go to 2.5 and give that a try. And I did it right beside the other one. So I went a little shorter. Doesn't seem much shorter though, does it? And I went a little narrower. So I'm going to go ahead and try that one. So I'm at 1 point, now let's go 1.6 length and 2.5. Now let's try, I'm going to try, oh, it won't let me go any smaller than that. Well, that wasn't fair, was it? So we're going to try that. 2.5 width, 1.6 length. And I've got to change my thread. Oops, sorry, let's back it up. So, because as much as I like the orange, I'm not sure I want orange going around my witch. Like I said, I would probably do black. It really, geez, it's so hard to say. It really depends, because it depends what kind of look you're going for. If you want the outline of something to show a lot, then you're going to use a color that shows a lot. If you're more concerned that your stitches aren't going to be the prettiest, then you might want to use a color that blends in more. I tend to like the color to show a bit, so this gray may work for me instead of a black. Because if I stitch black on black, I can't see I'm never going to see those stitches. And depending what I'm doing is whether I want to have the stitches showing or not. Oh, Christine says she's been practicing and hers came out perfect. For your zigzag, Christine, that's good. Okay, so I almost threw my little piece away. I gotta save that. So if I'm working on a project and I don't work on it, get it all done at one time, let me hold this up a second, then I'm gonna write down what stitch length I used. And I'll press this out so it won't be puckery. So I'm gonna look at this witch, and remember, I'm not gonna do the broom because I want the broom to feel separate. So this part of the broom and this part of the broom, I'm not doing. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to come down around, and I'm going to stop where the broom is, lock it, come up here, go all the way around, and I may have to change when I get here. It might be too much. Okay, so you don't have to stick with the same thing the whole way. So let me just move that over a little bit. And so I've got my gray thread in. And again, I'm going to drop my needle right in where the witch's dress and broom are. Put my foot down, do my locking stitch. And again, so if you think of this as zig, zag, zig, zag, over here is the edge of the witch where the background is, and over here on the zig is all witch. So if I have to turn, I want to make sure my needle's out here, not in the witch. So if I go across, if I do a zig and I'm on the witch and I turn the fabric, now this is coming out somewhere else now. So only turn the fabric when your needle's at the outside edge of your applique shape. And you'll figure it out fast. You'll see what I mean. and I can tell you I can't, because I'm over to the right of my machine. I'm not quite sure where I'm going. I always want to know, I want to know that my needle needs to be on the right when I turn my fabric. Left, right, left, right. I want to be on the right. Because I have to make a big turn here. And I'm going to show you that this might not be the stitch that you want to use. As a matter of fact, I'll do that right now. So, here we are. And there's my stitch. And see, I couldn't see when I was down here. So, if we don't like it, you just take it out and do a straight stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to go back. Oh, sorry. Back over here. And I'm going to go to a straight stitch in the center. I am going to make it a little shorter, I think. So 2.0. And I'm going to take out my stitches. So I'm going to put my foot down. So see, that's my other hand helping me hold my fabric. Seam rip. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want you to keep sewing something. I don't need that anymore. I don't want you to keep sewing something and you don't like it. And we do that. So I'm just going to get under those threads. Zigzags are pretty easy to take out. And I'm just going to come along. I'm just taking out the zigs. And I know I have that lock stitch at the beginning. And if I just turn this over now, and I grab my bobbin thread, you see how that all came out? Came out and all over my, oh. And if I just look at this, and just clean it up pretty. See? Just like nothing happened. And if I can see the holes, I can just wiggle this a little bit, or use my finger, and it's the weave of the fabric will take the holes away. See? So we're good to go again. So now if I'm doing straight stitch, I'm still going to start in the same place, and when I come around to here, I am going to go across because the broom is underneath the dress. So I'm going to go straight across so it defines the dress from the broom. So you pick your stitch. I picked mine straight stitch. I'm going to get my nose in your way again. Again, I'm going to drop my needle, and it's just about where the witch and the moon meet together. Lock my stitch. And then I don't want to be too close to the edge. So I'm just going to go in a little ways. And I think what I'm going to do is I had my end foot on, and I think I'm going to reach behind me. And get my, maybe, well I was going to get my candle wicking foot on. Okay, and it's, so my candle wicking foot, so let me show you, oh, so this is another end foot. So my candle wicking foot, or there is a applique, clear foot applique foot, that sounds silly. And this is all open all the way in, so I can see all the way to my needle. So when you're doing applique, you might want to do that. Mine's usually sitting on my big machine, which is right behind me, and it's not there. So that means that I took it to class and didn't put it away. Shame on me. But that would make it much easier because you can see all the way in right into your needle. And if you don't have that foot, again, my end foot has two clear pieces. Oh, I'll show you here. Okay, so see where these two clear pieces meet here in the middle? My eye is right there to have my, so that right between those is where my needle is going to fall, only back further. So I just want to make sure that I keep my fabric just a tad to the right of the center. It really makes me wonder where my foot is because I rarely move it from that spot. Unless I use this machine for a class. Now, every time I move my fabric, my needle is down. And it would be easier if I had my head over, you know, my head was up higher, but I'm a little lower down because I'm sewing on my cutting table. But you know, see, I'm taking my time. There's no need to be in a big hurry. Probably wouldn't be going quite this slow. Oh, I almost went down my broom. So hopefully I didn't make too big of a mistake there. But you know, it's just thread that I can take out. Now when I'm turning so I'm coming this way and I need to go down that way. I'm not going to just turn, I'm gonna come up, stitch this way a couple and then go down. I don't want to come up and straight down. That makes that like a V there. I don't want that. I want a soft turn. When I got this long area, it's so nice to see that. I can move right along a little bit here. And I'm just going to finish up this part. I'm going to get up by the hat and stop, just so we can go to the tree, because I know for some of you that's probably, you feel like you're watching paint dry. I want to make sure that I cut that beginning thread, because if I'm coming back, in this case I'm not, but if I was coming back to meet that spot, I want to make sure that thread is cut, because I'm going to go over where I started by maybe 2 stitches, maybe. Now, when I do the hat, because it does come to that point, I am going to go up and then straight down. But when I go out on the brim, it's a little more rounded. So I did 1 stitch this way, and then I'll come down. And now I'm doing the nose, so I'm going to come out a little bit of an angle. And I'll show it to you because it's in gray. It should show fine. And I'm trying to keep my face out of your way if I can. And the same thing with the chin. And then I guess we can do the broom together. So now I'm going to come down. And I know I was going to stop, but I might as well keep going so you can see it. So now I'm coming to the arms. And I think that I'm going to come in and try to define the hands a little bit. You know, it's going to be so tiny, it's not going to make that big a difference. We can get all artistic if we want to, but it's not really necessary. And this hand came out, the bottom hand came out further past the broom. And then I'm going to come back in. I'm not following the broom, I'm following the arm back in. I'm going to do one more to make sure I'm back where I started. Okay, so let's see if you can see that okay. And hopefully I locked it. I wasn't, see, I was paying no attention. Okay, so see? So I started here, went down around, and you see how I defined the dress? By coming by that, because the broom is under her dress. And then we came around and up, and I came to that point up there, and then came back down, and see how I rounded just a little bit there? Can you see that? And I could have come out further. I really couldn't tell. But I probably should have come out further with the hand like I did this one. But I can always go back and do the little hand separate from the sleeve. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to do the broom. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take this section here, because the hand is over the broom, so I'm going to go down and up. So I'm going to lock, come down and up, and then I'm going to come here, look right here, below the hand, down and up, and then this little bit right here, down and up, and then we'll work on that. And if you watch, well, not so much watch, but if you wait a second, I'll show you what I mean by down and up. So again, I'm sinking my needle. Now this time, I'm still on my straight stitch. I don't care when I go down and up, if my stitches go over each other, because it's a thin area, and I really only need to go down, but I kind of like it to have it going down and up, and you'll see in a minute what I mean. So I'm going to spin all the way around, and when I come back up, I'm just going to move over a little to my left. I want to make sure I clip that thread where I started. I don't want to stitch the thread in and then have to get it out. And I'm at the end. Okay. So see? Look, hold on, let me get it. try to get it so you can. Let me see if the camera will adjust for that. Might be too close. There we go. You see? I came down and just came back up. And I'm going to do that here and that little bit right there. And let me just check for questions. Or I'll skip that for now. You'll know what to do there. Let me see what we have. So now I'm going to come down to the broom. And the broom, I'm going to do the same as this. So I'm going to start here, come over, down, and back up. Okay? Now, when I'm here, if I want to, and I'll show you. So if I come down and around, I can come up and down and up and down and up and down and then go. So let me do that so you can see what I mean. So you notice every time I manually put my needle in where I think it should be. Whoop, put down, lock it. Now I really have to get my nose probably in your way. I don't know if I was before because I can't see the camera when my nose is in your face, but I wish I had my candle wicking foot. So I'm going to come out a little bit because remember that broom comes out a little bit. And then I'm moving my scissors around. And I'm going to go on this edge. So now I'm coming down to the actual broom part. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of the broom. I'm going to take a couple stitches, maybe 2. And then I'm going to come back up. And I'm coming up to where that I call it that knobby part is, and you'll see in a second. And then I'm going to go back down again. And I'm going down to that center scallop, that little scallop edge. And then I'm going to go back up again. And I'm going over the stitches there, you'll see it. And I'm going to come back down. And I'm going to that third little scallop of the broom at the bottom. And then I'm going to come back up. And I'm just going to finish the broom, so just give me a second here. Oh, my pin cushion's in my way now. And I'm coming up where the broom reaches the dress. Let's see how that turned out. Okay, so see, I gotta fix that. I went right off the edge. So I'm coming down around, and then I came down, took a stitch over, went up, stayed right in the same place, just twirled the fabric around, came down, took a stitch over, went up, twirled around the same place, and see the stitches go over each other. It's no big deal. But see now when you look at it, see, it looks more like a broom. Actually, I kind of like the silver on the gray on there. It looks kind of silvery, doesn't it? Okay, so there's the whole witch. And I will come back after, and I will go ahead and see how I did here. I went up and back. I will just go up and back, or down and up, whichever way. And then I would do just a little here. And I will come back here and just come around this edge so it looks like a hand. So how's that? Okay, so there's our moon with the blanket stitch, and then we did stitched around here, just a regular straight stitching, and I used a 2.0 length. Okay, so now we got to look at the tree. These, because I'm going to go ahead and do the tree so I don't have to swap back the thread. Normally I would swap back to this thread or whatever thread I'm doing and do mouth. And I would do the exact same way. I would just stitch around with a straight stitch, stitch around with a straight stitch. And you don't have to be perfect. It just, you're kind of getting the gist of how the shape is. So now we're actually going to do about the same thing. I'm going to start down here. I'm going to come up. I'm going to go in and around and out. And every time I go, remember, unless I want to cut my thread, which I don't, I'm going to come in to the edge and then out. And then up to the edge and then out. Up to the edge and then out. And that's all I'm going to do. And then go to the next one. Come all the way up. And when I come down, I'll come up where this little V is for the next branch and out. So we'll do this together. And then you'll be able to finish the rest on your own. Because when I get to this edge, I can stop. I normally wouldn't, but I can stop there. So I'm going to come up from here, up, stitch out. Here. Let me point this way. So I'm going to come up. I'm going to come out here, stitch around here, back up, back in, up, over here, out and back, out and back, out and back, and then come down here, and then come up to this one, down, up to this one, down, and then I'm going to stop right there. Okay, let me check and see if you have any questions before I get started. So Christine said no for the buttonhole. I'm guessing that, yeah, the buttonhole, oops, sorry. The buttonhole is a little, the buttonhole stitch makes your outline really show. I use, normally I use an applique stitch, but it's only on the bigger machines, which is annoying. So it does stitch, stitch, and then bite, stitch, stitch, and then bite. So you have a little more room to maneuver around smaller things than usual. So let me check. I didn't see any other questions. Is anybody still with us? Nobody fell asleep, did they? Okay. So I'm going to start down in this corner because here's where I am. I'm starting down here. I'm going to sink my needle. In that corner of the tree, and I'm going to lock that stitch. I wish one of you girls would hand me my candle wicking foot while you're getting ready, because you may be changing your thread color. Let me just give you a second to get caught up. Oh. Hey, ladies, gents, my foot was right in front of me the whole time. So, here's what I want to use. See how it's open the whole way? So let's see. I'm going to bring my foot up. And I can't get my foot off without, whoops. I can't get my foot off without taking the thread up, the needle out of the way. Okay, so here's what I was working with, and here's what I'm changing to. See the difference? See how I can see all the way in? And I'll try to, let's see if I can tip the camera. Let's see if I can tip the camera in. Let me take my glasses off a second. Okay, you see now how I can see all the way in. So here's my needle. Oh, all right, I'm gonna hold this. Hold on. I'm gonna put my foot under this. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can do this so you can see. Okay, so I just need to move this over a little bit. Now, The camera's touching the side of my face. See, I'm going to bring that needle down. I'm going to lock it in place. Can you see that now? So let's see if I can sew with the camera looking like that. It seems fairly clear. I'm hoping it's clear. It looks clear to me from here. Well, hopefully it's clear enough for you to see. So now you can really see. I guess I'm going to have to pedal with my left foot. So, let me slow this down because I'm left footing it. So you can really see I'm trying not to go too fast, so I'll probably make you dizzy. Can you see it okay? So the tree goes out a little bit, and then in a little bit. So I'm really trying to follow the shape. Hopefully it's not, I can't look at the camera and stitch at the same time. I think I went off the edge a little bit there. And I'm just making sure this is smooth. So I'm going to come up. I know, I bet that going fast is annoying. And I'm going to take one stitch and then turn. Oh, let me get my scissors out of the way. Am I making you too dizzy? See, you can see, can you see? Yeah, look. Much easier. So this is in for brother, baby lock or brother, I believe. This is the metal one, which this is the metal one. I almost put my fingers too close there. It's called the candle wicking foot. They also make this in clear, and I believe it's called the open toe applique foot. An open toe foot, just a plain open toe foot, is a free motion foot, so that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for the open toe applique foot. And it'll look just like this one, except the whole thing is clear. I prefer the metal one. I don't know, probably, I think it grabs better, but they make the clear one now with little metal runners underneath, so it may be just as good. So hopefully this isn't too slow for you. Just look at it this way. You don't ever have to watch this again if you don't want to. But it's nice to refer back to when you don't do applique for a while and you go, now how did that work? I guess I could swing that around a little slower, couldn't I? When I say oop, that means I sewed off of the black. Can't see where I'm going. Which one am I going to? Oh, came up again fast. This one comes to more of a point, so I'm going to go out to the edge and then flip it back right around almost. I keep trying to put my right foot down and there's no pedal there. Okay, I'm coming down around again. if my stitches run into the stitches from the other direction, it's okay. We're going to think of this more as artwork. Okay, so I'm going to stop there just because I swear that you might be falling asleep on me. And I almost moved my foot right out from under. Let me put this back where it was. Okay, so I came up from the bottom, and again I'm going to cut that, because when I come back around this way, I don't want to have to try to cut that thread out from under stitches. So I came up, I came out, and see how they're close together on top of each other. I could have come out just a tad more, but I don't mind if at some point. Remember, I didn't iron mine for as long as you did, because I had the little iron, plus I had the little iron. So see how that little edge is coming up? I can go right back to my big iron and fix that. But I may not care that, because this is kind of, not rustic, but this is spooky. It's supposed to be spooky. So then I came up, I went in here, out, and see again, I crossed over the, oh, stop with my fingers. Okay, again, I could have come up closer to this edge and out, and then the next thing I would do is come up and go, and I would continue going until I get all the way around. I would not do this whole tree without stopping and making a locking stitch in a few places, because if a stitch broke, you don't want the whole tree to come undone. So let me switch us back to the overhead. Let's see, what am I supposed to be on? There we go. Okay, and I'm all tangled up in tripods and wires, and so, just give me a minute. Okay, so let's see if I can come in a little ways. So there you can see the stitching of the witch. Oh, Christine said she's glad I picked a straight stitch. I am too, though I didn't mind having it. I thought around here it would just be too plain. So I really would like all of you to try. I don't do a satin stitch because you really, 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 really have to be good at it when you turn. So I'm fortunate I have an embroidery machine. So if I needed to really have this be a satin stitch, I would take it and do it in the hoop in my embroidery machine. I know it's probably cheating, but hey. And there's the, let me see if we can get a little, whoop, I always go left when I should go right. So see, there's our little broom. Let me get in, see if I can get in. Oh, there we go. See, there's our little broom. Now, here's what happens is you're going to say, oh, yours looks really good, because you're not going to be as hard on me, I don't know why, as you are on yourself. So don't be so hard on yourself. Remember, first of all, this is just a little Halloween project, and it's a placemat, and it's going to get used or given away or whatever. You give it to some kid that they're not going to go, oh, why'd you do that kind of stitch in there? So don't, we need to let go of some of this and enjoy ourselves. And then here's where I stitched the tree. So you can already see the difference of how this looks and now how plain this looks. Okay? And again, when you do the mouth, just get the shape of it, that's all, and just do a few stitches. So if you need to go down to like 1.8 or 1.5 to get a few stitches in there on the nose and the eyes and stuff, do that. It's okay. Do whatever you darn well want to do. Okay, so let me just back this up. Oh, when things are running away. So, just a reminder, this is the candle wicking foot. Okay, so it is totally open all the way up to the needle. Keep your hands out of there. It also has that, see the tunnel? It has that same tunnel as that end, oh geez, that's a glary one, isn't it? It has that same tunnel as the end foot. What did I do? I had my end foot up. So here's my end foot. Basically, from the back, almost the same foot. It's just minus all the plastic. So same size, same tunnel. Actually has a bigger, this one has a bigger tunnel. To see how it spreads out further. But basically, it's the same kind of foot. So whenever I'm doing decorative stitching, applique stitching, this is the foot I use. So if you don't have one, put it on your Christmas list, or put it on your Halloween list, Thanksgiving list. There's lots of lists now. We don't want to be listless. Okay, so I hope everybody did a little stitching today. Next Saturday, I think next Saturday we're going to do a mug rug, and I think maybe we'll just piece it, or we may do one more placemat. Let's do a placemat, quilt as you go placemat, because we did a couple of different pot holders, and now we did the plain placemat. So for those of you that are watching this for the first time, to finish this placemat, you want to go back to the very first placemat we did, which was 2 weeks. I believe it was 2 weeks ago Saturday. So today is, today is the 10th, so that goes back to the 3rd. So it'll be the end of September, and I think it might say something like easy placemat. I'll put a link to that. And I won't be able to do it till tomorrow, but I'll put a link to that placemat at the end of this video, and I'll put it down in the description too, so you can get back and forth between them, because it's the same exact finish as we did the last time, where we have the bigger piece of fabric behind here, we mitered the corners and so forth, and everybody had an easy time of that. So you should be able to do that. I don't want to make you sit through that one more time. So let me just wait for a second and see if anybody has any comments or questions. And I needed a drink of lemonade so bad. That was good. I will post on Miss Loreens Schoolhouse Facebook page what you need for fabrics for the Quilt As You Go placemat. And then we'll go on to mug rugs. I'm trying to keep things simple so you have some simple projects. For those of you that quilt a lot and have these big projects, or you're making an outfit and you have these big projects, it's nice to have some little projects to do. For those of you that are beginning or just want to keep things simple but have some cute stuff, we started back, I think, with we did the drawstring bag, and we've done, we made this pin cushion, and there's a few things back, excuse me, and they're all on the Saturdays. And I tried to put a category, I forget what they call it, that says easy sewing or something like that. So I'll try to put those in there so you don't have to keep searching around for them. And next week I'll be back to 1 o'clock on Saturday, because I don't work. I apologize for being as late as I was this time. I was back in time, but I still couldn't get that camera to have the right resolution, so I'll have to work on that this afternoon. It's the first time that's happened, so I apologize, and I want to thank you for hanging in and waiting until I could get the live stream going. So again, thanks everybody. I'll wave to you. Bye. And have a good rest of your weekend. And I'll see you next Saturday or Thursday, excuse me, Thursday night, 7 p.m. We're working on a Christmas runner. So thanks a lot, guys. Bye.